Picture this. It's 2:17 in the morning. The room is silent, but your mind isn't. You're staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of something you can't explain. Not because she said something cruel, not because she left suddenly, but because you can feel it, the emotional distance that wasn't there before. The same person who once looked at you like you were the only man in the world now looks at you like you're just another part of the background. And the worst part is, you don't know when it changed. There was no warning, no dramatic ending, just a slow, quiet shift that your heart noticed before your mind could accept it. You remember how it used to feel, how her eyes used to light up when she saw you, how her voice carried warmth, how your presence meant something. Back then, you weren't trying to impress her. You weren't trying to hold on. You were simply existing in your own world, grounded, focused, complete. And somehow, that version of you was magnetic. That version of you didn't chase validation. That version of you didn't question his own value. But somewhere along the way, you started to forget him. You started to trade your emotional strength for emotional certainty. You started to make her your center instead of remaining your own. And what I'm about to tell you, my friend, is something most men learn too late. Attraction doesn't disappear in chaos. It disappears in comfort. It disappears in emotional predictability. It disappears the moment you stop being the man she was drawn to and start becoming the man who is afraid to lose her. Because the human mind doesn't hold on to what feels guaranteed. It holds on to what feels alive. And the moment you forget yourself trying to keep someone else is the moment you begin to lose everything. It's late at night and the world around you is quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't bring peace, but brings awareness. You're sitting there holding your phone, staring at a screen that used to mean everything, waiting for a message that used to come without effort, waiting for warmth that used to exist without question. And in that silence, you feel something you can't fully explain. Not pain, not anger, something deeper, something colder. The realization that somewhere along the way, the emotional intensity that once connected you slowly disappeared. No explosion, no betrayal, just a slow emotional fading. And the truth is, my friend, comfort was the weapon that destroyed it. Because in the beginning, you were different. You had direction. You had focus. Your life didn't revolve around her existence. She entered your world, not the other way around. And that's what created attraction. That's what activated her emotional nervous system. Because the human brain is biologically programmed to respond to emotional uncertainty. Dopamine, the chemical responsible for desire and anticipation, is not released when something is guaranteed. It's released when something feels alive, unpredictable, and valuable. Your independence created emotional tension. Your presence had weight. Your attention had value because it wasn't unlimited. But slowly, without realizing, you shifted your emotional center. You made her the source of your stability. And the moment that happened, the balance was broken. You started prioritizing her over yourself. You started sacrificing your routines, your discipline, your mission. You started responding instantly, always being available, always being present. And on the surface, it felt like love. It felt like loyalty. It felt like you were doing the right thing. But underneath, something else was happening. Her brain was adapting, her nervous system was adjusting to your predictability, and dopamine, the chemical that once created emotional excitement, began to fade. Because dopamine doesn't reward possession, it rewards uncertainty. It rewards emotional contrast. And when everything becomes emotionally certain, the nervous system becomes calm. And calm, in attraction, often becomes emotional neutrality. You began to notice small changes. She laughed less. She asked fewer questions. Her eyes stopped looking at you with curiosity. Her emotional responses became flat. And what hurt the most wasn't what she said. It was what she stopped saying. Because silence carries more truth than words ever will. Her nervous system was no longer reacting to you the same way. The emotional mechanism that once created attachment was weakening. And you could feel it. That quiet shift, that invisible distance, that slow emotional disconnection that no one prepares you for. And this is where most men make the fatal mistake. They try harder. They give more attention, more reassurance, more emotional energy. because the instinct is to fight for what you're losing. But attraction doesn't respond to desperation, it responds to emotional strength. And strength is not loud, it's not aggressive, it's quiet, it's stable, it's grounded. When a man loses his emotional center, his nervous system begins transmitting instability. And the human brain is extremely sensitive to emotional signals. It reads behavior more than words. It reads presence more than promises. And when your behavior communicates emotional dependence, her brain subconsciously registers a shift in value, not because she chooses to, but because she's biologically programmed to respond to emotional strength. This isn't cruelty. This is human nature. The brain is designed for survival and optimization. It seeks emotional experiences that feel alive, not emotionally stagnant. And when your life became fully available, fully predictable, fully centered around her, you unknowingly removed the emotional tension that created attraction in the first place. You became emotionally safe, but no longer emotionally stimulating. And safety without stimulation slowly becomes invisible. You might remember the exact moment when you realized something had changed. Maybe it was the way she stopped looking at you. Maybe it was the way her voice sounded different. Or maybe it was the way your presence no longer affected her emotional state. That's the moment every man faces at least once. The moment when he realizes he gave everything, and somehow it wasn't enough. But the truth is, it was never about giving more. It was about maintaining yourself. Because attraction doesn't survive on sacrifice alone. It survives on polarity, on emotional independence, on the balance between connection and self-possession. And the most painful part is you didn't lose her in one moment. You lost her slowly, through emotional predictability, through abandoning your own growth, through making her your emotional foundation instead of your emotional complement. And when a man abandons himself, he unconsciously destroys his own presence. Because presence is not about physical proximity, it's about emotional gravity. It's about the energy you carry when you exist fully within yourself. But here's the truth that changes everything, brother. The moment you stop chasing emotional reassurance, something inside you begins to rebuild. The moment you return to your mission, your discipline, your purpose, your nervous system stabilizes, your emotional center returns. You stop needing external validation to feel complete. And in that moment, you become dangerous again. Not dangerous to others, dangerous to your old self. Because the version of you that needed constant reassurance no longer exists. You begin to see clearly. You begin to understand that attraction was never something you could force. It was something you created naturally when you were whole, when your life had direction beyond emotional attachment, when your identity wasn't dependent on someone else's presence. And that's the paradox of human connection. The moment you stop needing someone to complete you is the moment your presence becomes powerful again. One day, you'll sit in silence again, but this time it won't feel empty. It will feel calm, controlled, grounded, because you'll realize something most men never understand. Comfort didn't destroy your value. Losing yourself did. And the moment you rebuild yourself, the moment you return to your purpose, you stop chasing emotional certainty, and you become the man who creates emotional impact simply by existing. And if there's one thing I want you to remember after this, it's this. You were never weak for loving deeply. You were never wrong for caring. You were never foolish for giving your time, your loyalty, and your presence to someone who once meant everything to you. That wasn't your failure, brother. That was your humanity. That was proof that you were capable of feeling something real in a world where most people are emotionally numb. But the lesson was never about losing her. The lesson was about finding yourself again. Because the truth is, no one teaches men what happens after the emotional silence begins. No one teaches you how to rebuild when your emotional foundation collapses. You're expected to move on, to act strong, to pretend it didn't affect you. But deep inside, something changed. You became more aware, more observant, more conscious of how fragile emotional connection really is. And that awareness, as painful as it feels, is not your weakness. It's your awakening. Pain doesn't destroy a man. It reveals him. It strips away illusions. It forces him to confront the version of himself he abandoned. So don't run from that silence. Don't distract yourself from that emptiness. Sit with it. Listen to it. Because that silence is showing you something powerful. It's showing you the parts of yourself you gave away. It's showing you where you forgot your own direction. And the moment you stop chasing what left is the moment you begin rebuilding what was always yours. Your strength, your discipline, your emotional independence, not for revenge, not to prove anything to anyone, but to become whole again. And one day, sooner than you think, you'll wake up and you won't feel that heaviness anymore. You won't feel that need for validation. You won't feel that fear of being alone, because you'll understand something most men spend their entire lives chasing. Peace doesn't come from being chosen. It comes from choosing yourself. It comes from knowing that your value was never defined by someone else's ability to stay. It was defined by your ability to stand, even after everything fell apart. So rebuild yourself, quietly. Focus on your mind, your body, your purpose. Become emotionally grounded. Become someone whose presence comes from certainty, not fear. And whether she returns or not will no longer matter, because you will have returned to yourself. And that, brother, is the most powerful transformation a man can ever experience.